Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly current affairs class. My name is Akash Raut and I'm your teacher of current affairs at Raj Malhotra IAS Institute. So in this video, जो हम टॉपिक्स डिस्कस करेंगे वो सारे टॉपिक्स रिलेटेड हैं वीक 3 ऑफ मई 2020 जो जस्ट अभी कंक्लूड हुआ है। इस सप्ताह वो सारे इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक्स जो मुझे लगता है कि यूपीएससी आपसे प्रीलिम्स या मेंस में सवाल पूछ सकती है, वो टॉपिक्स हम सब यहाँ पे डिस्कस करेंगे। सो पहला टॉपिक जो हम डिस्कस करेंगे वो है अगेन रिलेटेड टू कोविड-19। एक नया डेवलपमेंट आया है। तो कोविड-19 के ऊपर हम बहुत सारी चर्चा पहले कर चुके हैं कि कोरोना वायरस क्या होता है, व्हाट इज कोरोना वायरस। We have discussed about what is a pandemic. We have discussed about what is epidemic. All right, we have discussed about what is epidemic and epidemic act. और ये सारी चीजें हम पहले ही कवर कर चुके हैं। आज के इस वीडियो में जो एक नई चीज हम कवर करने वाले हैं वो है एंडेमिक। ऑलराइट, सो एंडेमिक। सो क्या थी ये करंट अफेयर? जो वर्ल्ड बैंक है, वर्ल्ड बैंक ने ये चीज बोली है दैट कोविड-19 is a potential new endemic. So World Bank has declared the COVID-19 to be a potential new endemic. So now the question that emerges is to understand what actually is endemic. All right. So now we are going to discuss what is an endemic disease. Endemic disease. So endemic disease का मतलब क्या है? ऐसी कोई भी disease जो किसी जोग्राफिकल एरिया में या एक पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल में हमेशा एग्जिस्ट करेगी, ऐसी डिजीज को हम बोलते हैं एंडेमिक डिजीज। सो एंडेमिक डिजीज आर डिजीजेस which are supposed to be existing in a particular geographical area or a group of population. Those diseases are known as endemic disease. जैसे उसका कोई अंत नहीं है, वो इरेडिकेट नहीं हो सकती at least for a considerable period of time. So ये कहा जाएगा that COVID-19 is an endemic disease. If it is declared as an endemic disease, it means that it has come to stay for a considerable period of time. कुछ एग्जांपल मैं आपको एंडेमिक डिजीज का दे दूं, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल मलेरिया, फॉर एग्जांपल चिकन पॉक्स। ऑलराइट, दीज आर एंडेमिक डिजीजेस। हर साल दुनिया में कहीं ना कहीं कोई ना कोई इन डिजीजेस से इन्फेक्ट हो रहा है। देयर इज नो इरेडिकेशन ऑफ मलेरिया, देयर इज नो इरेडिकेशन ऑफ चिकन पॉक्स। पीपल आर somewhere at some point of time, a particular group of people residing in a particular area, they are somehow getting affected by either of these disease and they have been declared as endemic disease. So now COVID-19, until unless we develop a vaccination for COVID-19, the COVID-19 will also keep on existing as an endemic disease according to World Bank. Now there are two types of endemic disease. Endemic diseases can be classified into two types. One is holo endemic disease, HOLO, holo endemic disease, and the second type is hyper endemic disease. Hyperendemic disease. All right. So the endemic diseases, there are two types: the holo endemic diseases and the hyperendemic diseases. The holo endemic diseases are those endemic diseases which are mostly affecting the children. All right. So the holo endemic diseases, they are mostly affecting the children. The holo endemic diseases do not affect the adult as such. Example of holo endemic disease is malaria. Today, malaria is more profound among the children rather than the adults. All right. Still, it is not eradicated, and therefore, जो मलेरिया है ये एक एंडेमिक डिजीज है। और किस तरह की एंडेमिक डिजीज है? होलो एंडेमिक डिजीज। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस, the second type of endemic disease is known as hyperendemic disease. और जो hyperendemic disease है, it affects all age groups. It affects all age groups. So जहाँ पे होलो एंडेमिक डिजीज अफेक्ट करती है सिर्फ चिल्ड्रन को, this particular hyperendemic disease, this endemic disease affect all age group, and the rate of occurrence is high for hyperendemic diseases. All right. So the hyperendemic diseases, they affect all age group people, और उसके साथ साथ उसकी rate of occurrence is very high because it may be contagious. It may be contagious. That means that the R naught factor for these diseases is more than 1. All right. So this is a very important point you should understand, that the R naught factor for hyperendemic disease is more than 1. They are highly contagious and a vaccination is still not developed for these kind of diseases. So अगर COVID-19 कल एक endemic disease declare होती है, तो किस तरह की endemic disease होगी? It will be a hyperendemic disease. All right. So I introduced one concept here. So we are going to cover that concept as part of the current affairs class itself, and the concept is known as R naught. R naught, it is pronounced as R naught. All right. R naught is basically known as basic reproduction number. It is known as basic reproduction number. All right. What does it mean? कि कोई infected person एक डिजीज को कितने लोगों में स्प्रेड कर सकता है, उस नंबर को हम बोलते हैं R naught number. All right, this is known as the basic reproduction number. It is this basic reproduction number concept is generally associated with contagious or infectious diseases. All right, contagious or infectious diseases, for example viral disease. All right, तो जैसे आपका जो कोविड-19 है, कोविड-19 के बारे में ये बोला जा रहा था कि इन द बिगिनिंग इन इंडिया द R naught factor for COVID-19 was 4. That is, one person who is infected is going to infect 4 other people in his or her vicinity on an average, and each of these 4 people will infect another 4 people, and this is how this particular disease is going to spread with R naught factor. All right. However, after we impose the lockdown, जब हमने lockdown impose किया, the infectious tendency of COVID-19 has brought down, और जो मार्च के आसपास R naught factor was equal to 4 for COVID-19, it is now reduced to 1.63 as of now. All right. लेकिन अगर social distancing practice नहीं करी तो R naught factor फिर से increase कर सकता है. All right. Now I'll show you a picture. If you pay attention to your screen, this image is going to show you the basic reproduction number of a particular disease, that is a viral disease, and this image is for the disease that has R naught number as 2. So you can see that the red individual that who is standing here, this red individual, he is the patient 0, that is, he is the first person to be infected. Because the R naught number for this virus is 2, he is going to spread these disease to the 2 new people. He will become the patient 1, he will become patient 2. This patient 1 is going to again spread this disease into 2 new people. This person will become patient 3, this will become patient 4, and this patient 2 is going to give this disease to 2 other people. He will become patient 5 and he will become patient 6. Similarly, patient 3 will give rise to 2 new people. The patient number 4 will give rise to 2 new infected people, patient 5 and patient 6, and so on. Every infected person is going to give rise to 2 new infected people belonging to this particular disease. All right. So this is the basic concept of R naught, or the basic reproduction number for any kind of contagious disease, particularly the viral diseases. All right. So this was all about the COVID-19, जिसको अभी World Bank कह रहा है that it is a potential endemic disease, that is, it is going to stay with us for a long period of time in certain geographical area or in certain age group for sure. All right. So now the second topic. So this was all about the first topic. अब हम second topic पे switch कर रहे हैं, और second topic का नाम है Tibetan Buddhism. All right, Tibetan Buddhism. Tibetan Buddhism or you can say Buddhism that is there in the Tibet region. All right, so you know that UPSC is very much known for asking questions related to culture, और खास करके जब बुद्धिज्म जैसा कोई रिलीजन अगर न्यूज में आ जाए तो यूपीएससी कभी चूकती नहीं है ऐसे टॉपिक पे क्वेश्चन पूछने से। ऑलराइट, सो इस वजह से जो बुद्धिज्म जो तिब्बत एरिया में मिलता है वो इस पर्टिकुलर वीक न्यूज में था, और इस वजह से हम इसको यहाँ पे कवर करते हैं। तो पहली चीज तो आपके माइंड में आएगी कि क्या न्यूज थी बुद्धिज्म, तिब्बतन बुद्धिज्म से रिलेटेड। सो द न्यूज वाज सिंपल दैट यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स हैज अर्ज्ड चाइना कि वो 11 पेंचेन लामा को रिलीज करते। ऑलराइट, सो 11 पेंचेन लामा who is a spiritual leader of Buddhism that exists in Tibetan area, जो उनका 11th पेंचेन लामा था उनको रिलीज करे, who is actually a political prisoner in China. Alright, so इस टॉपिक में हम डिस्कस करेंगे अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट व्हाट आर लामास, उसके साथ साथ हम स्टडी करेंगे what actually is Tibet China issue, as well as we are also going to understand the various dimensions associated with the Tibetan Buddhism. All right, so पहले ये पेंचेन लामा का थोड़ा सा इशू देख लेते हैं। what is this issue? So actually what is there, जो लामा होते हैं, लामा are the spiritual authorities. All right, they are the spiritual authorities, or you can call them teachers in Buddhism, or you can say in Tibetan Buddhism. जो Tibetan Buddhism है उसमें जो lamas होते हैं, they are no one but they are the spiritual authorities or teachers. Highest spiritual authority, highest among all the lamas is Dalai Lama. All right, Dalai Lama. And the second highest authority is Panchen Lama. Panchen Lama. So UPSC question पूछ सकती है Panchen Lama, which of the following statements about Panchen Lama is are correct? Number 1, Panchen Lama is the highest spiritual authority. Number 2, Panchen Lama is the second highest. All right, so the answer will certainly be that Panchen Lama is the second highest spiritual authority in Buddhism or Buddhist tradition existing in Tibet region of China. All right, so what was the issue? The issue was that in 1995, a 6-year-old child, in Tibet, who was declared the 11th Panchen Lama. All right, the name of this child was, his name was Gendhun Chokyel Nyima. Gendhun Chokyel Nyima. All right, no need to remember the name. I'm just telling you the name just for the sake of just telling it. So what happened that in 1995, a 6-year-old boy was declared by the Tibetan people as the 11th Panchen Lama. All right, and that means he was declared that he was the second highest spiritual authority of Buddhist tradition in Tibet. What China did was that he was taken into custody by China. China ने इन्हें अरेस्ट कर लिया और अपने साथ डिटेन कर ले गए. All right, now this 6-year-old boy who was given the status of Panchen Lama, he was taken into custody and detained by the Chinese government, and since then he is there in China as a political prisoner. All right, now a very important fact to remember that Gendhun Chokyel Nyima, he is the youngest political prisoner. He is the youngest political prisoner in the world. All right, he is the youngest political prisoner in the world, and he is arrested by China. All right, so basically what is happening that जो लामा होते हैं, they are seeking greater autonomy. They they are seeking greater autonomy for Tibet. They do not want independence, but they want Tibet to have greater autonomy under China. जैसे दलाई लामा है, दलाई लामा जो है, in fact, he is also considered by China as a threat because Dalai Lama, he is also asking autonomy within China for Tibet. All right. Okay. So Dalai Lama वाला issue हम थोड़ा सा आगे discuss करते हैं. All right. So let me tell you about a little bit about this issue more. So when China, जब उन्होंने 11 पेंशन लामा को अरेस्ट किया, उसके बाद चाइना ने अपने खुद का एक बंदा यहाँ पर एज पेंशन लामा इंट्रोड्यूस कर दिया. So now the Panchen Lama that is imposed upon the Tibetan Buddhist, it is a stooge of the Communist Party of China who is working for the Chinese government against the wishes and ambitions of Tibetan people. All right, चलते हैं आगे. Now this China-Tibet issue हम थोड़ा सा discuss कर लेते हैं. China-Tibet issue. All right. So what happened that Tibet was during the British rule, Tibet was under the British and was not a part of China. It was under the British and it was not a part of China. However, जो China है, China believe करता है that there has been a traditional rule. There has been a traditional rule of China over Tibet. All right. So China कहता है कि since ages we have been ruling Tibet and it has been taken by British under their control from China. And therefore, in 1950, after the independence of China, in 1950, China invaded Tibet, and then out of the area of Tibet, it created Tibet autonomous region in some part of the Tibet that was annexed, plus other parts of Tibet, they were incorporated by China in the nearby provinces. All right. So in a way, China imposed its own sovereignty. China imposed its own rule upon the people of Tibet in 1950. All right. Okay. So when China did this, जब China ने ये चीज करी, so वहाँ पे a group of people in Tibet. So in Tibet there was a group of people who believed that Tibet is autonomous. Who believed that Tibet is not a part of China, and therefore they wanted it to be a free, independent country. All right. So in 1959, there was anti-China campaign that was launched by some people against the Chinese occupation of Tibet. All right, it was launched by some people against the Chinese occupation of Tibet. However, this campaign was crushed. इस campaign को crush कर दिया by the Chinese People's Liberation Army (PLA), and these people then eloped and they formed a government of Tibet. They formed a government of Tibet in exile. और कहाँ पे ये गवर्नमेंट बनी है? ये गवर्नमेंट इंडिया में बनी है. So what happened that in 1959, जब ये एंटी चाइना कैंपेन क्रश कर दिया चाइनीज पीपल लिबरेशन आर्मी ने, so a group of people they eloped and they reached India and they formed a government of Tibet, government of free Tibet in India, and the leader of the people, जो ये group of people यहाँ से भागा था, उनके जो लीडर थे, he was the 14th Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is the highest spiritual authority of Tibetan Buddhism. So 14th Dalai Lama यहाँ से भाग के इंडिया आ गए और in exile the government of free Tibet was formed. China since then considered the 14th Dalai Lama as a separatist leader and therefore want him to be handed back to China by India. Alright, so आपने देखा होगा कि कभी भी जब चाइना हमारे ईस्टर्न या वेस्टर्न बॉर्डर पे इंडियन फोर्सेस के साथ स्कर्मिशेस कर देती है तो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट क्या करती है कि दलाई लामा को एक अरुणाचल प्रदेश का विजिट करवा देते हैं. ऑलराइट, अरुणाचल प्रदेश इज सदर्न तिब्बत और वो वहां पे भी जो बुद्धिस्ट ट्रेडिशन है इट इज तिब्बतन बुद्धिज्म. ऑलराइट, सो द पीपल ओवर देयर दिस कंसीडर दलाई लामा एज अ स्पिरिचुअल हेड. और जब हम इंडियन गवर्नमेंट दलाई लामा को अरुणाचल प्रदेश लेके जाते हैं तो द यूनिटी ऑफ द पीपल देयर as part of India, as part of Tibet increases, and with association with China actually decreases down. So Indian government is using Dalai Lama to its own advantage and giving Dalai Lama space to create his or her own to create his own government of free Tibet people in exile in India. So this is the entire picture of China-Tibet issue. Remember this thing that Dalai Lama does not want complete independence of Tibet. He just wants that the Tibet area should be given greater autonomy because Tibet was not originally part of China, to which China is not agreeing. All right. So now let us discuss about a little bit about the Buddhism that exists in Tibet, the characteristic features. All right. So now we are going to discuss the characteristic features of Tibetan Buddhism. All right, now we are going to discuss the characteristic features of Tibetan Buddhism. Okay, now this Buddhism in Tibet, it reached Tibet somewhere around 8th century era, 8th common era. So it reached Tibet in 8th century common era when the king of Tibet at that time, his name is actually Trisong Detsen. So the king of Tibet, Trisong Detsen, what he did, he invited in 8th century CE two Buddhist monks to Tibet. The name of these two Buddhist monks are important from prelims perspective. And the name of these Buddhist monks, the first Buddhist monk, his name was, the name of these two Buddhist monks is important from the prelims perspective. और ये दोनों Buddhist monk के नाम आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा. जो पहला Buddhist monk है उसका नाम है शांता रक्षिता. And the second Buddhist monk, his name was Padma Sambhava. All right. So these were the two Buddhist monks जिनको king of Tibet Trisong Detsen ने तिब्बत में बुलाया. जो शांता रक्षिता थे, he was the leader or he was the head of Buddhist monks. कहाँ पर? नालंदा in Bihar. Nalanda is a center of Buddhism. तो नालंदा का जो monks थे, नालंदा के जो monks थे, उनका head था कौन? शांता रक्षिता. और जो पद्म संभवा थे, he was the master of spiritual Buddhism. He was the master of not spiritual, ritualistic Buddhism, tantric Buddhism, ritualistic or tantric Buddhism. All right. So पद्म संभवा और शांता रक्षिता को तिब्बत में बुलाया किंग ऑफ तिब्बत ने, एंड दिस मार्क द बिगिनिंग ऑफ Tibetan Buddhism in the area of Tibet. All right. So what kind of Buddhism is there? So this Shanta Rakshita, he introduced Mahayana Buddhism, and then Padma Sambhava, it fused along with Mahayana Buddhism, it fused Tantric Buddhism or Vajrayana. Along with this, shamanic tradition was fused along with these two branches of Buddhism, and it also got flavor from the traditional Tibetan religion. The traditional Tibetan religion called Bon, B-O-N, इसके भी फ्लेवर आपको बुद्धिज्म में मिला. So what are the characteristic features of Tibetan Buddhism? So Shantarakshita introduced the Mahayana Buddhism, and to the Mahayana Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism and shamanic tradition of Buddhism was introduced by Padmasambhava, and the already existing religion of Tibet. It also gave certain flavor to the Buddhism that existed in the Tibetan region, and this ancient religion of Buddhism is known as Bon, B-O-N, Bon. All right. Now, what is the spread of this Tibetan Buddhism? Tibetan Buddhism कहाँ से कहाँ तक spread है? Tibetan Buddhism आपको लद्दाख, इंडिया में मिलेगा. You can find Tibetan Buddhism in Ladakh in India, all through to Sikkim. All right, जो भी ये Himalayan belt है, वहाँ पे जितना भी Buddhism है, it is Tibetan Buddhism. Along with this, आपको ये देखने को मिलेगा नेपाल में, आपको ये देखने को मिलेगा भूटान में, आपको ये देखने को मिलेगा मंगोलिया में. All right, so in Tibet, in Ladakh in India, in Sikkim in India, in Nepal, in Bhutan, in Mongolia, the Buddhism that exists is Tibetan Buddhism. All right, Mongolia may not complete Buddhism, but some part of Mongolia, it is having this prevalence of Tibetan Buddhism. Apart from this, remember this thing that Bhutan का जो state religion है, the state religion of Bhutan is Tibetan Buddhism. Is Tibetan Buddhism. It is a prelims important fact that the state religion of Bhutan is Tibetan Buddhism. All right, and one thing you should remember that जो क्या बोलते हैं, जो आपका Tibetan Buddhism है, इसके अंदर जो deities होती हैं, all right, the deities in these Tibetan Buddhism, they are not people, or they are not people or anthropomorphic gods. Anthropomorphic gods यानी ह्यूमन फॉर्म में गॉड्स नहीं होती जो इनके भगवान होते हैं, बट दे आर द हाईएस्ट क्वालिटीज. दे आर द हाईएस्ट क्वालिटीज. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल विजडम इनकी एक डेटी है. फॉर एग्जांपल कंपैशन इनका एक डेटी है. जो तिब्बतन बुद्धिज्म का जो पैटर्न डेटी है, डेटी मतलब देवता, जो तिब्बतन बुद्धिज्म का जो पैटर्न डेटी है, इज अवलोकितेश्वरा. It's Avalokiteshvara. All right. So Avalokiteshvara कौन है? Avalokiteshvara is the patron deity of Tibetan Buddhism, and he is nothing but the compassionate Buddha. All right, Buddha who is resembling the highest level of compassion. He is known as Avalokiteshvara, and Avalokiteshvara is the patron deity of Tibetan Buddhism. All right, so it must be remembered here that the Buddhist deities are not gods, but they are the aspects of enlightened qualities. For example, wisdom and compassion. All right. एक चीज ध्यान रखिएगा कि जो तिब्बतन बुद्धिज्म है, उसमें मोनेस्ट्रीज होती हैं, जो इनका टेम्पल्स होते हैं, उसके अंदर सेरेमनीज ऑर्गेनाइज होती हैं, एंड दीज सेरेमनीज आर लाउड सेरेमनीज. मतलब बहुत ही शोर शराबे के साथ सेरेमनीज ऑर्गेनाइज करी जाती हैं, ढोल नगाड़े बजते हैं, ब्रास इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स होते हैं. Alright, so these are the various characteristic features of Tibetan Buddhism जो इस particular week news में थे, because the United States has asked China to release the 11th Panchen Lama, जो चाइना ने 6 साल की उम्र में अपने अंडर डिटेन कर लिए थे. who is also the youngest political prisoner of the world. इनको रिलीज करने की बात करी है किसने? यूएस ने. किसके लिए? चाइना के सामने. Alright. So this was all about the Buddhist tradition in Tibet. Now we are coming to the next topic, the third topic, and the third topic is known as International Day of Families. International Day of Families. All right, ये topic important है. International Day of Families important है from the prelims perspective. From the prelims perspective, prelim examination के हिसाब से International Day of Families important है, and this International Day of Families is recognized on May 15 every year. All right, every year on May 15, this International Day of Families is recognized, and this May 15 was declared as International Day of Families in 1993 when the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution. It passed a resolution demanding that the 15th May should be recognized every year as International Day of Families. All right, and हर साल जो International Day of Families है उसकी theme होती है, and the theme for 2020 is families in development. Families in development. Copenhagen and Beijing plus 20. Beijing plus 25. All right, this is the theme of this International Day of Families. So why I took this particular topic to discuss with you, because UPSC ने अपने previous paper में 2 बार पूछा हुआ है that the Beijing action plan or the Beijing declaration of 1995 deals with what? All right, so the answer is simple: women empowerment. All right, so now this families in development, Copenhagen plus and Beijing plus 25, this was the theme for the 2020 International Day of Families. What does it mean? It means that this particular year, that is 2020, it marks the 25 years of the Beijing Declaration on Women. Now, let me tell you one thing very clearly here, that women play a very important role in the families, and to commemorate their role, International Day of Families is recognized. So, for women's status in family, there has been world conference. There has been world conferences on women. और आज तक ऐसी 4 वर्ल्ड कॉन्फ्रेंसेस ऑन वुमेन हुई हैं जो आपको एग्जामिनेशन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू के हिसाब से बहुत जरूरी है याद रखना. द फर्स्ट वन वाज ऑर्गेनाइज्ड इन Copenhagen, which is the capital of Denmark, in 1975. The second one was organized in pardon me, there's a small correction. 1975 में पहली जो वर्ल्ड कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑन वुमेन हुई थी, it was Mexico City in 1975. When it was Mexico City in 1975 was the first world conference on women. The second world conference on women was in Copenhagen, which is the capital of Denmark, in 1980. The third one was in Nairobi, which is the capital of Kenya, and it was 1985. And the fourth one, that was in 1995, and it was in the capital city of China, that is Beijing. All right, अभी तक दुनिया में 4 वर्ल्ड कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑन वुमेन हुई है. The first one in Mexico City in 1975, second in Copenhagen in 1980, the third in 1985 in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, and the fourth one in Beijing in 1995. All right, so in 1995, Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action was adopted, जिसके ऊपर यूपीएससी 2 बार सवाल पूछ चुकी है, and it is related with the women development and uplifting the status of women and family. So this was all about that. We have to discuss about the International Day of Families, which is recognized every year on 15th May. All right, and the World Conferences on Women. This is a very important topic from prelims point of view, and you have to keep this information always on your toes. All right, let's now switch to the next current affair. The next current affair is related to the Global Forest Resource Assessment Report 2020. Global Forest Resource Assessment Report. Assessment Report 2020. आपको पता है that आज की डेट में जो यूपीएससी का सिविल सर्विसेज एग्जाम है, उसके प्रीलिम्स फ्यूज कर रखा है यूपीएससी ने along with the Indian Forest Services, और इस वजह से जो भी एनवायरमेंट से रिलेटेड करंट अफेयर है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाते हैं, और यूपीएससी बहुत लार्ज अमाउंट ऑफ नंबर में, in a large amount, UPSC is asking the current affairs from the environment dimension. So this is one of the report that we want to discuss, that is the Global Forest Resource Assessment Report 2020. So this report is released by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. All right, so एक तो ये UN की रिपोर्ट बन जाती है जो अपने आप में बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बन जाती है. So this report, that is the Global Forest Resource Assessment Report for 2020, it is released by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, और इसके अंदर इस रिपोर्ट में UNFAO ने 60 indicators को assess किया है. It has assessed 60 indicators in 236 countries, and it have found out certain trends related to the global forest resource between the year 1990 till 2020. Alright, 1990 से 2020 तक कुछ ट्रेंड आइडेंटिफाई किए हैं जो इस पर्टिकुलर रिपोर्ट में हम डिस्कस करेंगे और आपके प्रीलिम्स रिलेटेड इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए बहुत जरूरी हो जाता है और आप इसको एज अ फॉर्डर मटेरियल अपने मेंस एग्जाम में भी यूज कर सकते हैं. Alright, so the first important information that has been given in this report is that the total forest area in the world is somewhere close to 4.06 billion hectares. It is 4.06 billion hectares. Remember this thing, that the total forest area in the world is 4.06 billion hectares. और अगर आप per capita फॉरेस्ट लैंड के हिसाब से देखें, टोटल फॉरेस्ट एरिया को जब हम टोटल पॉपुलेशन के साथ डिवाइड करते हैं, इट इज कमिंग आउट टू बी 0.52, इट इज क्लोज टू 0.52 हेक्टेयर्स ऑफ फॉरेस्ट एरिया पर पर्सन इन द वर्ल्ड. ऑलराइट, नाउ दिस 4.06 बिलियन हेक्टेयर्स, इट इज अप्रोक्सीमेटली 31% ऑफ द टोटल एरिया ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. So total area of the world का 31% is total area of the world का total area मतलब total land area, not the total surface area of the world. Total land area of the world जो है उसका 31% क्या है, total forest area in the world. All right, which is approximately 4.06 billion hectares. And if you go for per capita forest land, अगर आप total forest area को total population से divide करते हैं तो it comes somewhere around 0.52 hectares. Now, another important fact that was discussed in this particular report was that the countries which have the highest forest cover, the countries with the top forest cover, or you can say the countries with the highest forest cover, these countries account for approximately 54% of the total forest area. And these are, सबसे ज़्यादा forest cover आपको मिलेगा रशियन फेडरेशन में. It is Russian Federation. After this, the second country is Brazil. Third country is the United States of America, USA. Fourth is China. All right. Fourth is China. All right. Just a minute. Third, USA is fourth. Fifth is China, and third is Canada. All right. These are the top 5 countries with the highest forest cover. And these 5 countries alone accounts for approximately 54% of the total forest area. सबसे ऊपर आएगा रशियन फेडरेशन, सेकंड है ब्राजील, तीसरा है कनाडा, फोर्थ है यूएसए और पांचवी कंट्री है चाइना. ऑलराइट, नाउ अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस, ये रिपोर्ट एक बहुत ही इट पॉइंट आउट समथिंग गुड. एक अच्छी इंफॉर्मेशन इस रिपोर्ट में दे रखी है दैट द रेट ऑफ फॉरेस्ट लॉस, जिस रेट पे फॉरेस्ट डिस्ट्रॉय हो रहे थे, ये रेट डिक्लाइन हो गई है. दिस रेट हैज डिक्लाइन. ऑलराइट, सो ये ट्रेंड आपको बहुत ही जरूरी है याद रखना कि जो फॉरेस्ट लॉस, जिस रेट पे हम फॉरेस्ट को डिस्ट्रॉय कर रहे थे, वो रेट डिक्लाइन हो गई है. दैट मींस नाउ वी आर डूइंग लेस डैमेज टू द फॉरेस्ट. इट डज नॉट मीन दैट द टोटल फॉरेस्ट एरिया हैज इंक्रीज. क्या ये इंक्रीज हो रहा है? इसका मतलब है कि जितनी स्पीड से ये डिक्रीज हो रहा था, वो स्पीड कहीं ना कहीं स्लो हो गई है. डिक्रीज ये अब भी कर रहा है. ऑलराइट, अगर हम वो कंट्रीज देखें जहां पे फॉरेस्ट लॉस सबसे ज्यादा है, फॉरेस्ट लॉस सबसे ज्यादा 2 कंट्रीज में बताया गया है. सबसे ज्यादा अफ्रीका में. सो द अफ्रीका's forest are the forests which are shrinking with the faster speed, and second are the South American forests, particularly the Amazon forest of Brazil. All right, so Brazil और अफ्रीका 2 ऐसी कंट्रीज हैं जहां पे फॉरेस्ट एरिया बहुत ही फास्ट स्पीड से श्रिंक हो रहा है. अगर आप फॉरेस्ट एरिया की इंक्रीज की बात करें, तो कॉन्टिनेंट वाइज एशिया has reported the highest forest increase. Getting my point? So Africa is the continent which has witnessed the highest forest loss. South America is the second continent which has also witnessed the forest loss. Whereas if you talk about the forest area increase, the highest forest area increase has been seen in Asia, followed by Oceania. Oceania means New Zealand and Australia. All right, and then Europe. So there are three continents which have seen an increase in the forest cover: Asia, Oceania, which is comprising of New Zealand and Australia, and Europe. Whereas the 2 of the continents, they have witnessed a decline in the forest area. The largest loss of forest land is in Africa, followed by South America. All right, चलिए आगे अगला टॉपिक हम डिस्कस करेंगे related to घड़ियाल्स and घाघरा river. Now we are going to discuss the topic घड़ियाल्स and घाघरा river. So we are going to discuss in detail about Gharials as well as the Ghagra river. All right. So why they were in news? UP government, UP has reintroduced the Gharials into this river, that is Ghagra river, which is also a natural habitat of Gharials for their conservation and protection. All right. So remember this thing that Gharials जो हैं, Gharials, they are actually the freshwater crocodiles. They are freshwater crocodiles species which are found in northern India. Alright, घड़ियाल्स are found in northern India. जो सोन रिवर है साउथ में, सोन रिवर के नीचे, महानदी के नीचे, you will not find any घड़ियाल्स. घड़ियाल्स are only found in northern Indian region. ठीक है, ये बात ध्यान रखिएगा. जो घड़ियाल्स है, they are fresh water crocodile species which are found in northern India. They are differentiated. They are distinguished from other crocodile species. So there are many crocodile species. There is mugger. Then there is a saltwater crocodile. Then there is alligator. Then there is caiman. Alright, इस तरीके से बहुत सारी crocodile की species होती हैं. इन सारी species से घड़ियाल distinguished होता है because घड़ियाल is having a snout on its mouth. ऐसे इस तरीके से घड़ियाल का mouth होता है. This is the eye. Alright, so ये जो snout है, this is giving a resemblance of a pot, and a pot in Hindi is known as ghara. Alright, and therefore the ghara, you know, pot, and because it is giving a shape of pot, that is ghara. This particular species is named as gharial, and in English sometimes it is also known as gavials. Alright, so gharials or gavials. Okay, so they are one of the freshwater crocodile species that are found in India. Okay, now in India, if you talk about what are the different crocodile species that are found, so India में जो crocodile की species हैं, एक तो आपको घड़ियाल मिलता है. You also find mugger in India, and you find saltwater crocodile. All right, so in India you will find 3 species of crocodile. You will not find caimans, you will not find alligators. You only find these 3 crocodile species. जो घड़ियाल्स हैं, इनका IUCN status is critically endangered. They are protected under the Schedule 1, which is the highest level of protection under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. And in terms of international trade, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species CITES, they are given the highest protection under Appendix 1. All right, under Appendix 1 of CITES, Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1 and IUCN critical endangered status, घड़ियाल are given the highest protection. जो मगर हैं, मगर की जो IUCN status है, it is vulnerable. Muggers are vulnerable, and saltwater crocodiles, they are least concerned because they are most abundant of all the crocodile species. If you talk about the habitat of घड़ियाल्स in India, घड़ियाल के ऊपर UPSC 2 बार क्वेश्चन पूछ चुके हैं पास में. It is one of the most favorite topics or the species in which UPSC asks questions. So if you talk about घड़ियाल्स का जो प्राइमरी हैबिटेट है, जहाँ पे ये प्राइमरीली आपको मिलते हैं, this primary habitat is Chambal River, and the secondary habitats Chambal River, and the secondary habitats are other rivers such as Ghagra, Gandak. All right, Ghagra, Gandak. Apart from this, you will find this घड़ियाल species in Girwa. You will find it in Ramganga, and you will also find घड़ियाल्स in Son. All right, so these are the secondary habitats. The primary habitat is the Chambal River, and the secondary habitats are other rivers such as Ghagra, Gandak, Girwa, Ramganga, and Son. All right. नाउ घड़ियाल का कंजर्वेशन, अगर आप कंजर्वेशन एफर्ट्स की बात करें, बहुत जरूरी है, याद रखना ये कंजर्वेशन एफर्ट्स टू कंजर्व द घड़ियाल्स. So this conservation efforts, the first is the National Gharial Sanctuary. National Gharial Sanctuary has been created over the Chambal River in Madhya Pradesh, in the area which is adjoining Rajasthan and UP. Alright, so Rajasthan और यूपी के जो ट्राई जंक्शन है, वहां पे नेशनल चंबल सेंचुरी या नेशनल घड़ियाल सेंचुरी has been created over the Chambal River for protection of gharials. Apart from this, in Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh, Kukrel Gharial Rehabilitation Center. Kukrel Gharial Rehabilitation Center has been created by the government in Lucknow in UP. All right. So these are the efforts, or these are conservation efforts that the government has undertaken to preserve the gharial species in India. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about these two rivers which are in news, Chambal and Ghagra. If you talk about Chambal is a river that originates in the northern slopes. Of Vindhyachals. All right, so Vindhyan range के northern slopes पे Chambal emerge होती है, and the place from where the peak from where Chambal emerges, that peak is Singar Chori Peak. So it emerges from Singar Chori Peak. All right, so it emerges from Singar Chori Peak in northern slopes of Vindhyan Mountains in Madhya Pradesh. जो Chambal है, it is a tributary of Yamuna. Very important fact, remember this. Chambal is a tributary of Yamuna, and apart from this, remember that जो Chambal है, ये यमुना को मीट करती है in Etawah district of UP. यूपी की जो इटावा डिस्ट्रिक्ट है, वहां पे चंबल जाकर इसके साथ मीट करती है, यमुना के साथ में. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस, इफ यू टॉक अबाउट द ट्रिब्यूटरीज ऑफ चंबल, बनास, कालीसिंध and Parvati. Banas, Kalisund and Parvati, they are the three important tributaries of Chambal, and Chambal itself is a tributary of Yamuna that meets Yamuna at Etawah in UP. Apart from this, if you talk about the other river, that is Ghagra, जो Ghagra है, it emerges south of Mansarovar. Ghagra river, it emerges south of Mansarovar in तिब्बत. तिब्बत की जो मानसरोवर लेक है, जो हमने लास्ट अपनी क्लास में डिस्कस करी थी, उसके जो सदर्न एरिया है, वहां से तिब्बत एमर्ज करती है, और जिस पीक से घाघरा रिवर एमर्ज करती है, उस पीक का नाम है गुरी मंधाता पीक. So this Ghagra river is emerging from the Guri Mandhata peak, which is south of Mansarovar in Tibet. All right, this river, Ghagra river, in western Nepal. So before entering into India, ये जो Ghagra river है, it flows in western Nepal, and in western Nepal, this river is known by the name Karneli. All right, so Ghagra river in western Nepal is known by the name as Karneli. All right, so important tributaries of Ghagra. Ghagra की important tributaries की अगर हम बात करें, it is Sarda, Saryu, and one more river is there, Rapti. Very important fact to remember: Sarda, Saryu, and Rapti, they are the tributaries of Ghagra, and Ghagra itself is a tributary. It itself is a tributary of Ganga, and Ghagra meet Ganga at Chhapra in Bihar. All right, so Bihar के जो Chhapra district है, वहाँ पे Ghagra go and meet the river Ganga. Therefore, Ghagra is the tributary of Ganga river. All right, और Ghagra की important tributaries हैं Sharda, Saryu, and Rapti. Saryu River is very important. Saryu River is the river where on the banks of Saryu River where Ayodhya is located. Ayodhya is located. All right. So you know that Lord Shri Ram, he terminated his life by taking a dip into Saryu River. He उन्होंने जल समाधि ली थी और जिस नदी में उन्होंने जल समाधि ली थी वो थी Saryu River, and it is the Saryu River जिसके banks पे कौन सी city based है? Ayodhya city, which is a mythologically very important city क्योंकि मंदिर ये वहीं बनेगा. All right. So let's go ahead and let's discuss the next topic. The next topic in the current affairs is techniques of rice growth. Techniques of rice growth or cultivation. Techniques of rice growth or cultivation. All right. So basically क्या है कि अभी तक जिस टेक्निक से जो राइस को कल्टीवेट किया जा रहा था, ग्रो किया जा रहा था, that is known as transplanting paddy. The technique which is right now used for growing rice is transplanting paddy technique. तो ये जो टेक्निक है ये लेबर इंटेंसिव टेक्निक है. इसमें काफी ज्यादा लेबर की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. इट इज अ लेबर इंटेंसिव टेक्निक एंड बीइंग अ लेबर इंटेंसिव टेक्निक ये जो ट्रांसप्लांटिंग पैडी है इस टेक्निक में क्या है, बीइंग अ लेबर इंटेंसिव टेक्निक and you know that because of the reverse migration of labor, जो लेबर अब अर्बन एरिया से बैक गोइंग टू देयर होम प्लेसेस, this reverse migration of labor की वजह से there will be a shortage of agricultural labor. All right, agricultural labor. इसकी वजह से गवर्नमेंट ने बोला है that you switch from transplanting paddy technique to direct seeding technique of rice growth. All right. So क्योंकि इस साल माइग्रेशन रिवर्स माइग्रेशन हो गया कोविड-19 की वजह से and there will not be enough agricultural labor that will be available, so the government has said that instead of using the transplanting paddy technique of growing rice, the farmers should think about growing rice with the technique which is known as the direct seeding method or the direct seeding technique for rice growth. All right. Okay. So let's build further. So one thing is clear that there are two techniques of growing rice: TP for transplanting paddy and direct seeding method (DSM), in which direct seeding is done. So let me explain you this transplanting paddy. So what you do is, in transplanting paddy, you go for creating a nursery. एक नर्सरी बनाते हैं आप जिसमें seeds of rice are converted into saplings. All right, seeds of rice are converted into saplings in some 5 to 10% of the farm जिसमें आपको राइस ग्रो करना है. अगर सपोज करो कि आपका जो फार्म है वो 1 एकड़ का है, तो उस 1 एकड़ में 0.05 एकड़ जो है उसमें आप एक नर्सरी बनाते हैं और उस नर्सरी में जो राइस के सीड्स हैं उसको किस में कन्वर्ट कर देते हैं, सैपलिंग्स में. ऑलराइट. और जब ये सैपलिंग्स ग्रो करते हैं, जब ये सीडलिंग्स ग्रो करते हैं, आप इनको वहां से उखाड़ के खेत में लगा देते हो और फिर अगले 3 से 4 वीक्स तक, once you pick these seedlings and grow in the field, then from 3 to 4 weeks you keep your fields inundated. फील्ड्स के अंदर पानी भर दिया जाता है. They are inundated to a height of 4 to 5 centimeters. 4 से 5 सेंटीमीटर का पानी खेत के अंदर खड़ा कर दिया जाता है. Now this is a technique जिसके अंदर water acts as a herbicide. All right. So जो सीडलिंग है वो 5 से 6 सेंटीमीटर बड़ा हो जाता है. 7 सेंटीमीटर 8 सेंटीमीटर का सीडलिंग होता है. पानी भर देते हो आप 4 से 5 सेंटीमीटर. सो जो राइस प्लांट है वो तो सस्टेन कर जाता है उस फ्लडेड कंडीशन में, लेकिन जो दूसरे पौधे होते हैं, जो जमीन के अंदर जो बीज होते हैं, उनको पानी में ऑक्सीजन नहीं मिलता एंड देयरफॉर दे कैन नॉट ग्रो एंड देयरफॉर वाटर, this inundated water जो पानी का फील्ड भरा होता है, it acts as a herbicide preventing the herbs to grow that deter the growth of rice plant. ये वाटर इंटेंसिव टेक्निक है, लेबर इंटेंसिव टेक्निक है, बट इसके अंदर आपको राइस की कम सीड्स चाहिए. You need approximately 4 to 5 kilogram of rice per acre to grow a good amount of yield. Is it clear? So this is basically known as transplanting paddy technique. Now coming to the direct seeding method. In the direct seeding method, what you do is you go for leveling the field. जो फील्ड है, जो खेत है, उसको आप लेवल अप कर देते हो, और देन यूजिंग द ट्रैक्टर और एनी पर्टिकुलर मशीन यू गो फॉर डायरेक्ट सोइंग ऑफ राइस. आप राइस को सीधा जाके उगा देते हो, और एक पर्टिकुलर ट्रैक्टर और कोई भी मशीन को यूज करके वो जाके फरोज खोद के उसके अंदर राइस को ग्रो कर देती है, और फिर आप इसको वंस प्री सोइंग, एक बार आप इसको इरिगेशन देते हो, और उसके बाद आप इसको जस्ट कंटिन्यूअसली एज अ नॉर्मल प्लांट ग्रो कर सकते हो. बट इसकी कुछ नुकसान है. फॉर एग्जांपल, इन द डायरेक्ट सीडिंग मैकेनिज्म you will be requiring approximately 8 to 10 kilogram of rice seeds per acre, which is almost double as compared to the transplanting paddy method. So you need more number of seeds. आपको ज्यादा seeds चाहिए in direct seeding mechanism of rice planting as compared to the traditional or transplanting paddy technique. All right. Apart from this, ये जो डायरेक्ट सीडिंग मैकेनिज्म है, इसका एक और शॉर्टफॉल है दैट इसके अंदर आपको टाइम को बहुत ही सीरियसली फॉलो करना है. दैट इज यू मस्ट कंप्लीट द सोइंग ऑफ राइस बिफोर अराइवल ऑफ द मॉनसून. बिफोर अराइवल ऑफ मॉनसून के आने से पहले आपको सोइंग कर देनी है. अगर एक बार मॉनसून आ गई तो डायरेक्ट सीडिंग मेथड कैन नॉट बी यूटिलाइज्ड फॉर ग्रोइंग राइस. ऑलराइट. बट इसके कुछ बेनिफिट भी हैं, जैसे इट इज लेस वाटर सेविंग एज वेल एज you do not require much labor for direct seeding method. All right. And क्योंकि इसमें खेत में पानी नहीं भरा जाता, therefore there is no emission in the direct seeding method. There is no emission of methane. All right. So agricultural methane जो रिलीज होती है खेत से, वो भी नहीं रिलीज होती, because there is no inundation of field. Is it clear? All right. बस इसमें एक और कमी है डायरेक्ट सीडिंग मेथड में, कि जो जहाँ पे जो आपका ट्रांसप्लांटिंग पैडी टेक्निक है, उसमें जो वाटर है, इट वाज एक्टिंग एज हर्बिसाइड. इसके अंदर यू नीड टू पुट इन हर्बिसाइड फ्रॉम आउटसाइड. आपको बाहर से केमिकल हर्बिसाइड इंट्रोड्यूस करनी पड़ेगी. ऑलराइट. ओके. Now just some kind of technique, some kind of static information which is important with respect to rice. Rice is a staple crop for a large population in the country. Rice is a kharif crop. Remember this thing. Rice कैसा crop है? Rice kharif crop है. It is a kharif crop which is grown during the summer season. All right. It requires high temperature, approximately average 25 degrees Celsius से ज़्यादा का temperature चाहिए. It requires good amount of rainfall, more than 100 centimeters rainfall during the monsoon period. ऑलराइट. और जिन एरियाज में जहां पे रेनफॉल लेस देन 100 सेंटीमीटर है, फॉर एग्जांपल पंजाब एंड हरियाणा, वहां पे इरिगेशन से इसको फुलफिल किया जाता है. ऑलराइट. नाउ इफ वी टॉक अबाउट नंबर ऑफ क्रॉप्स इन नॉर्थ इंडिया देयर इज ट्रेडिशनली one crop per year. Alright, one crop per year of rice, whereas in southern India and West Bengal, due to the climatic conditions, there are 3 to 4 crops of rice every year. For example, if you talk about West Bengal traditionally have 3 crops of rice in 1 year, and these 3 crops of rice, or the 3 crop season of rice in a year in West Bengal, they are known as Or, Aman and Boro. Or, Aman and Boro. Or, Aman and Boro, they are the 3 different rice seasons in 1 year in West Bengal. यानी 3 राइस क्रॉप्स आपको मिलती हैं साल में एक बार इन स्टेट्स के अंदर. नाउ इंडिया इज द सेकंड लार्जेस्ट प्रोड्यूसर ऑफ राइस इन द वर्ल्ड आफ्टर चाइना, एंड इंडिया अकाउंट्स फॉर 21.6% ऑफ द टोटल राइस प्रोडक्शन इन द वर्ल्ड. So these are the various important factual information which are important with respect to what is basically known as rice crop in the country. All right. Now, apart from this, there was another. There was another particular report that was published this particular week, and the name of that report is Global Nutrition Report 2020. देखो ये रिपोर्ट काफी जरूरी है क्योंकि दिस रिपोर्ट इज डीलिंग विद न्यूट्रिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन नॉट जस्ट इंडिया बट ऑफ द ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड्स. इस रिपोर्ट की जितनी भी इंफॉर्मेशन है वो आपको उस पीडीएफ में मिल जाएगी जो आप लिंक से डाउनलोड करेंगे. इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन सेक्शन देयर इज अ लिंक ऑफ अ पीडीएफ. You have to download that PDF and read this particular report and the important findings from that report itself. I am not discussing this report in this video because there's so much of factual information जो आप एक बार खुद भी read करेंगे तो there's no need to cover it in the class. All right, just give it a reading, and if you have any problem in that report, if you want to have any discussion on that report जो उस PDF में दे रखी है, you can mail me your queries on akash rawat001@gmail.com. All right, so I'm not covering that report here, but the information about that report is given in the PDF that you will be downloading from the link given in the description section. और एक बात का ध्यान रखिएगा that ये जो report है, it is important only from the prelims point of view. It is important only from the prelims point of view. Here we are going to discuss a more important issue now, and that is India-China border clashes. This is the last topic, the 8th topic today, India-China border clashes. All right. Okay. Now you know that the India-China border, बहुत ज़्यादा India-China border पे कई बार क्या होता है कि जो troops होते हैं, तो Indian troops and Chinese troops, they many a times face a standoff. मतलब एक दूसरे के साथ गुत्थम गुत्था हो जाते हैं इंडिया चाइना बॉर्डर के ऊपर, इंडियन ट्रूप्स एंड चाइनीज ट्रूप्स. You know that India and China, they have declared that there will not be a single bullet that will be fired on the border. That means neither the Indian side nor the Chinese side they can go for firing the bullets on the opposite troop. Like unlike the Pakistan side जहाँ पे हम आपस में एक दूसरे के साथ फायरिंग एक्सचेंज करते हैं, इंडिया चाइना बॉर्डर पे 1962 के बाद में कोई भी गोली नहीं चली है. ऑलराइट, अगर कोई भी स्टैंड ऑफ होता है उसमें वो एक दूसरे के साथ मुक्का मुक्की हो जाते हैं, धक्का मुक्की करते हैं, इसके अलावा कुछ नहीं करते हैं. So what is the problem? Why there are so much of border clashes between India and China? So इस week भी ऐसा ही एक border clash देखने को मिला है, and the place was Nakula, N-A-K-U-L-A. All right, La basically means pass, and pass is a area between the two hills or the mountains जहाँ से movement possible है. So Nakula is in Sikkim, and in Sikkim, in this region Nakula, there was a clash that happened between the troops of India and China. Along with this, another clash. एक clash तो हुई नाकुला सिक्किम में. Another clash was seen in the Pagong Tso. In the Pagong Tso, Tso basically means lake. So it is the Pagong Lake in Ladakh, जहाँ पे इंडिया चाइना के जो ट्रूप्स हैं उनके बीच में फिर से कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हुआ है. Alright, so Nakula, it is the pass in Sikkim. All right, and other two passes of Sikkim which are important, which are pass between India and China, एक हो गया Nakula, उसके अलावा है Nathula, and then there is Zelepla Pass, J-E-L-E-P, Zelepla. So Zelepla, Nathula, and Nakula, they are the important passes that form the boundary between, that form the routes between India and China. और जो पेगोंग सो लेक है, पेगोंग सो लेक, it is located in the Union Territory of Ladakh. It is the highest salt water lake. It is the highest salt water lake in the world, which is approximately 160 meter long. जिसमें 1/3 portion जो है वो इंडिया में belong करता है और 2/3 portion of this lake is in China. Alright, लेकिन इंडिया चाइना की जो फोर्सेस हैं उनके बीच में इतना skirmishes क्यों होती हैं, इतनी फाइट क्यों होती है? So that we have to discuss. All right. Now what I'll do is I'll show you a snapshot of the PDF. All right, and then we'll discuss it there. Just pay attention to your screen. All right. So if we have to discuss the border issue between India and China, remember this thing that the border issue between India and China, it occurred at two levels. One is the western side, that is the western sector, and second area where we have this issue is the eastern sector. All right, so the border issues between India and China, it can be classified into two segments. The first is the western sector issue, and then second is the eastern sector issue. So western sector issue hai, it is primarily the issue related to Aksai chain. All right, so if you see this particular map, दिस इज द अक्साई चेन. अगर आप इंडिया का जो जम्मू एंड कश्मीर का जो फॉर्मर स्टेट है उसका देखें तो इट इज समथिंग लाइक दिस. ये वाला जो पोर्शन है इट इज नोन एज अक्साई चेन. ऑलराइट, और जो ईस्टर्न सेक्टर है इट इज रिलेटेड विद द इशू ओवर अरुणाचल प्रदेश. ऑलराइट, ओके, सो लेट्स फर्स्ट डिस्कस द वेस्टर्न सेक्टर इशू अक्साई चेन. देखिए 1865 में एक लाइन वाज डिमार्केटेड बिटवीन इंडिया and the China border at that time, and that line was known as Johnson line. जो जॉनसन लाइन है उसने अक्साई चेन इस पर्टिकुलर एरिया को इंडिया के जो जम्मू एंड कश्मीर का स्टेट है उसका पार्ट माना. So if you see on your screen, ये जो ब्लू लाइन है इस फिगर के अंदर, this blue line is actually which is known as the Johnson line. Alright, so Johnson line ने 1865 में अक्साई चेन को इंडिया का बॉर्डर माना. Alright, लेकिन हुआ क्या, in 1890 1890 में चाइना ने कैप्चर कर लिया जिनजियांग प्रोविंस को और अक्साई चीन को अपना पार्ट डिक्लेयर कर दिया. ऑलराइट, then there was a conflict between the British government of that time, which was occupying India and China, and that issue was tried to be resolved by मैककार्टनी and मैकडोनल्ड line. ये जो डैश लाइन है ये मैककार्टनी और मैकडोनल्ड लाइन है. इसने ये वाला पोर्शन तो दे दिया चाइना को, और ये वाला जो पोर्शन है ये अभी भी किसका पार्ट माना, इंडियन स्टेट ऑफ जम्मू एंड कश्मीर का. However, the China did not agree to मैककार्टनी and मैकडोनल्ड line. ऑलराइट, और उसके बाद फाइनली क्या हुआ, 1947 में इंडिया आजाद हुआ. जब इंडिया आजाद हुआ तो इंडिया ने बोला कि 1865 की जो लाइन है जो चाइना ने नेगोशिएट करी थी ब्रिटिश के साथ, हम उस लाइन को फॉलो करेंगे. दैट इज इंडिया सेड दैट वी विल बी गोइंग विद जॉनसन लाइन, whereas China said that no, you have to acknowledge that जो अक्साई चेन है ये जिनजियांग प्रोविंस का पार्ट था, and because of that particular reason entire अक्साई चेन it should belong to India. तो ये जो ऑरेंज लाइन आप देख सकते हैं इस फिगर के अंदर, this orange line is basically what is known as the Chinese line of perception. That is, it is the area that China says ये पूरा एरिया चाइना अपने पास रखना चाहता है, whereas India has right now, according to line of actual control, India has said that ये जो green area है, it is the line of actual control, or you can say Indian line of perception. So ये जो बीच का ये जो area है, this area is the area which is the zone of contention, और इस वजह से लगातार हमारे और चाइनीज फोर्सेस के बीच में skirmishes होते हैं on western front. All right, now in 1962 line of actual control became the boundary, putting a large part of Aksai Chin into Chinese territory, and because this area is not at all demarcated, तो कई बॉर्डर के पास जो एरियाज हैं जैसे दौलत बेग उल्डी, वहां पे 2013 में there was a standoff between India and Chinese forces. All right, so because of the poor demarcation of India-China border, such kind of issues have come up. Now let us discuss the eastern issue, that is the issue related to Arunachal Pradesh. So in 1913-14, the British government of India at that time, it signed a agreement which is known as Shimla Accord between India, China and Tibet, according to which the southern Tibet region, that is Arunachal Pradesh, it was given to the British Indian government. All right. However, the boundary was finalized between these areas as McMahon Line. However, after independence, China refused to recognize McMahon Line, and it said that entire Arunachal Pradesh is part of southern Tibet, Tibet, and since Tibet is part of China, therefore Arunachal Pradesh automatically becomes part of China. So China does not recognize McMahon Line in the eastern segment. However, it is very important to recognize here that China actually recognizes McMahon Line with Myanmar, but China does not recognize McMahon Line with India. So it shows the double standards of China with respect to the territorial policies. All right. So this is the border issue that exists between India and China, and because of this particular border issue, there is constant conflagration, there is constant tussle between Indian forces and Chinese forces on both eastern segment and western segment. और जो बीच वाला एरिया है वो वैसे ही इतना हिली और डिफिकल्ट टेरेन का है कि कोई भी फोर्सेस वहां पे जाके लड़ना पसंद नहीं करती. ऑलराइट, सो this is the final topic that I wanted to discuss. Again, before closing the session, I want to tell you that you can download the PDF of this particular lecture from the link given in the description. All right, and if you have any query, just mail me on my email ID akash.sharawat001@gmail.com. With this, I will conclude the lesson. I will conclude this lecture. Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye.